Hey, this is Bill. So I'm going to go out of my comfort zone and make a family recipe, but it's a dessert. I'm okay with desserts, but I always get a little nervous, these sweat stains, right? So this is an apple Pandowdy, which is something that's like been around for a million years, and it is really, really great. It's really fun to make. So like some other recipes that are a little more complicated, I break it down into like sections, so you do everything kind of separately. Alright, so the reason I want to do this is because I went to the produce place in Suntree and they have pink ladies and Honeycrisp apples, my favorite. I use them for my apple upside down cake that I've done before, so trust me. You got to have that kind of sweet and that sour kind of thing going on. But this is going to be a lot of fun. And I've already peeled and sliced them up. I've got them in some water so they don't turn brown too fast. Alright, so the first thing I got here, I got a cup of flour. And I need to cut in 3 tablespoons of butter. Now, I've let this sit out. And I don't know if you've ever done this before, and if you have a dough knife, that's fine to use. But start off gently, or you're going to have flour everywhere. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this butter kind of mushed up, and then we'll incorporate the flour. And I don't put it in the microwave and melt it. You don't want to change the texture. Probably could have left this out another few minutes, which is really strange because it's been out for like half an hour. I really expected it to be a little softer. That's alright. Good workout for today. So this is really cool. Because this is going to be kind of the dough that goes on top, and my arm's getting tired. Why is that? Just kidding. And oh yes, you're going to hear in a minute because you got to preheat the oven at 350. Alright, now we're talking. So you get everything incorporated, you get all those little butter chunks mixed in, and you can see it really didn't take that long. I guess if this were a lot of work for you, you could use a food processor. I was growing up, the only food processor was Cuisinart, so we used to just call them Cuisinart. It's kind of like Kleenex and facial tissue. Okay, beautiful. Alright, so the next thing I need to cut in is I've got 2 teaspoons of baking powder with a pinch or a 1/4 teaspoon, 1/8 of a teaspoon, whatever, of salt. And it's a little humid still today, so we gotta get all that in there. Right on. Alright, so once again, we want to make sure we get this cut in pretty good. The Love Boat. Alright, everything looks really well mixed. So now what do I need to do? Oops, I found another chunk of butter. I knew it was in there somewhere. I knew it was hiding in the flour. Alright. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. So now I have 3/4 cup of milk, and I'm always leery about pouring straight in because you can't take it away. Right? I always say, plus you can get clumpy. So I want to start out by I put about half of it in. Just like when you, I don't know, if you use a big mixer, if you ever used one, gotta be careful of those dry ingredients, or you're gonna have a real mess on your hand. If you try and start it off too quick. All right, beautiful. No problem here. Alright. So we're going to do the same technique, just kind of cut. And we want to incorporate, but we don't have to get all the lumps out, okay? So I'm not trying to get this smooth, especially because I know there's butter in there, right? But this is also going to help me kind of make sure that everything is good. I do want to get the flour all mixed in. Once again, so this is probably the hardest part of the whole dish, right? Pretty cool. Alright, let's set that aside. So now what I'm going to do, okay, so I got this beautiful baking dish. It's too new for me because it is Corningware, but it doesn't have the size on the bottom. Usually, I tell you in quarts, it's like 2.5 quarts. So I know I have too many apples, but that's okay. So what I want to do is I want to get my hands in here. Start putting these in here, and I need about 6 cups. And I really want to get it a little more than half full. I might just say heck and put them all in. We'll see. Yeah, I think I can. If you're not sure how to do that, water displacement's always going to tell you how many cups you have, or you can do the old trick that I've learned from friends of mine. Pints pound the world around. But if you convert things to metric, 5 cups is going to equal out. I forget I did it yesterday. But there we go. Beautiful. Got the 2 different kinds of apples. These pink ladies. Man. Ooh, love it. Okay. So, I need to sprinkle on a little cinnamon. Because we really want these to be happy. Don't go crazy. Just don't forget, cinnamon is not sweet by itself. Just want a little color in here. And I'm being very careful. I'm not bam, 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 slapping this thing, okay? So, what's my liquid? Well, I did this up ahead of time because this was going to be quite a bit of time. So basically I have this saucepan, and I'm going to teach you some tricks. So I took a cup of brown sugar with 1/4 cup of flour, alright, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And over kind of medium-low heat, I stirred it together. Well, what that did was, you don't want to let it get hot because we don't want to burn it, but it helps break down the brown sugar and mix the flour in as it kind of heats. And we don't, like I said, we don't want it to get too hot. Then I took a cup of water that I'd added a teaspoon of lemon juice, just a little bit, because we like that flavor, that lemon. You need that little bit of citrus in there. And then you set it aside because you want it to be thick, right? It's not like killer thick. You're going to see when I pour it. So when it cools down a little bit, not ice cold, but cools down enough, touch side of the pan, whatever. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add half a teaspoon of nutmeg, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of butter. And just stir it nice and gently until we get all that butter to melt, okay? Okay, so now what I'm going to do, this is some plot against me because I'm pouring things on the wrong side for me, but I don't know. Did the bean counters design this, not the cooks? So it is pretty funny. So here's the pouring spot, right? But I'm right-handed, guys. All right. So now what I'm going to do, just going to take a little walk on the wild side. Remember, these apples got a lot of water on them, so that's why we want this kind of thick. Make sure get all this in here. Oh yeah. Oh. Alright, so make sure, and so this is going to cook into it, so it's not like, we don't want it drowned in there because the apples are going to give up a lot of fluid, okay? So now, here's the fun part, I haven't quite figured out, and this is exactly what I wanted. It kind of turns into a ricotta cheese, right? So I just want to start dropping balls of dough all around. That's why I want this smaller baking dish that's a little taller. I think one time it was my grandmother that made this, and she used more like a chafing dish, so she must have made like a ton of this stuff, you know, the dough part. But I want the apples, okay? This is just the pretty stuff on top. But you can see, just by that time that I'd set this aside, this is really thickened up. Just like I wanted. I couldn't decide if I wanted to use a spoon for this or a fork on it. Fork worked just fine. I really don't want to disrupt this, and we're not trying to cover it because we need steam to escape, but we just want some of this goodness here, and I'm going to kind of flatten out just a little bit. Like I said, don't take it to the edges because we need to get that steam out of there. So I've got like a little border. Alright, now what do? This is the easy part. We rinse our finger off. And what I have is the magic. So this is a tablespoon of sugar and a quarter teaspoon of cinnamon. And basically, I just want to cover this dough. And you can go over the edge and into the apples if you got leftover, which I do, so that's fine. Always had a jar of this on the dining room table, so we had toast. My mom always let us put a little cinnamon sugar on our toast. Okay, it's beautiful. This is all it is, man. I mean, it's just so this simple. All right. Like I said, I keep my stuff kind of rustic. It doesn't have to look perfect, because if I make something look really perfect, you're gonna be like, I can't make that, right? So I want to keep things real. So I got a 350 oven. This is going to take about 50 minutes. You're going to know because we want to get a little brown on top here. Up to an hour, depending on your oven. If your oven's on the cool side, it's probably going to take that full hour. My oven's pretty toasty, so I'm counting on the fact it'll be done more like 50 minutes. So let me pop this in the oven, get this sucker rolling, and I'll show you what it looks like. Wow, what can I say? This is just like Beauty and the Beast. It's really hot. I mean, it's like boiling, bubbling hot. The top crust is perfect. It did take the 50 minutes. So like I said, you know, I checked it at 45 and it was not quite. But let me see if I can do this without burning myself. Oh. So you just want to get a little piece of the goodness of there. Oh. That just splashed on my arm, and I will tell you, it is really, really hot. Oh, but good. Let me tell you, this, thank goodness our ancestors knew how to cook, right? Because nobody does, not many people do anymore. But this is exactly how I remember. And it's kind of like a version of apple pie or something. I don't even know. You know, I should probably have looked up the origin of it. But man, this is amazing. So, you know, y'all got to get a big old scoop of vanilla ice cream on top there. And let me move this out of the way because it is hotter than hot, and I'm going to end up like burning myself, right? Well, I can tell you. So, like I said, I broke this down into like three big steps. Nothing's impossible to do. You can do everything, you know, kind of at your leisure. Obviously, can't let that the sauce sit there forever because it would probably get really thick. You want it just you know, still warm enough. But you know, if you have an apple core, it would probably make things easier. I haven't used one since I was a kid, but this was a lot of apples, so I'm kind of thinking about that again. I think the problem is when you have really big apples, you don't get all the cores, so you end up kind of cutting the core out anyways. But it probably would have been simpler. I don't know. I just think that this is really simple, believe it or not. I mean, sometimes baking is kind of complicated. And I think in the scheme of things, this is pretty darn simple. It's certainly delicious. If you have, you know, apples in season, now's the time. Just go a little crazy, do something kind of fun, and try this. Made it quite a bit, so you know, this is going to be a couple nights, right? But yeah, I mean, just that little bit of cinnamon I just have to try one of these pieces of apple in here. I'm hoping it's cooled down enough that I don't scream. Oh. There's so much texture in those fresh apples. It's not overly sugary and sweet, because I'm not a big fan of that. It's got a nice, wow, yeah. I mean, you can taste the different apples in there, and just those, you know, the tart and the sweet of the apples. And just that, like I said, a little bit of cinnamon and that little hint of vanilla and the nutmeg in it. This stuff is the bomb, okay? So please keep subscribing. Really, really enjoy it. Cook this kind of stuff. It's like a, you know, treat. It's made from scratch, so it's a lot better for you, right? And I'm gonna finish this really quick, so I gotta stop talking. Anyway, so thanks for subscribing. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being there to kind of encourage me to keep on going. And I'm going to see you next time with another great recipe. Have a great day.